Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? Hope you're all doing very, very well. Now, this is going to be quick. I'm just going to dive straight into this. I got sent a message just before saying, Kilt-Man, Kilt-Man, you're always waffling about movies and your top 10 this, your top 10 that. I want nature fighting back animal horror movies. What are your top 10? And I thought, haven't I done that before? And to be honest, I don't think I have. I haven't really looked. I may have done. I may have touched upon the topic. I don't know. But I thought, well, okay, I'll give that a shot. And I'll do it right away. So without really going in depth and probably missing out a whole load. And also, this is not going to be in the number 1 slot, in the number 2 slot. No. I'm just going to give you 10 movies. And maybe a couple that kind of should have made the list, but it's kind of loitering in the background. You know, in the lower league, just the ones that come to mind. And I thought, well, you can't just pick something like a 3-headed shark, Mega Godzilla versus Mutant Mothra. You know, you want animals that genuinely exist. And I thought, well, okay, let's try and do it so that they are animals. And I want them to be all different. Each film will be a different animal, a different species. Because how many shark movies are there? How many, you know, spider movies are there? It's just hundreds, mate. So, you know, I'm going to just pick. And I thought, okay, so you don't want something that's obviously supernatural. You want something that's obviously, it's a real animal and it's kind of doing pretty much what that real animal would do, albeit with certain kind of expanded parameters because of size, usually, or methods, and the fact that it's maybe on a bit of a vengeance kick, because that's another thing. Do animals conceptualize the idea of a strategic attack on somebody because of, you know, the retribution? Well, there's one title here which I'm putting down because I think that animal could perhaps do it. It has the mental abilities to think like that. We know they're highly intelligent and they do take things personally. So we'll come on to that soon. So obviously I'm missing out a lot of the really totally OTT stuff, and there's no dinosaurs here either. There might be what could be termed as a bit of a throwback, as you'll see, but no dinosaurs because who really knows how they act? You know, I don't know. So without further ado, and let's deal with that big elephant in the corner. Jaws! Yes, Jaws. I mean, that's probably going to be the number 1 slot. Yeah, the 20-foot shark, 25. 25-foot great white shark. Yeah, the things it does in this movie, it targets a particular place. Well, we know that sharks do use territoriality. They do lay a claim to a certain area and go back and feed there again and again. We know they do eat human beings. Very often mistaken identity, but sharks do eat humans. And there was the case way back in like 1915, something like that, where a great white shark, went up a river in America and began to pick off people living on the banks who were skinny dipping or whatever, and it killed about 5 people. So that became a very notorious case, and in part Peter Benchley's story is based upon what that shark was able to do. So leaping out the water, great white sharks do that. Attacking a shark cage, yeah. Tearing it apart, yeah. Given the size and strength of this shark, very definitely. Leaping up on the transom of the orca and sinking it, yeah. Sharks leap out the water. Sharks do look up out the water to look at prey and look at whatever's above. They leap out. They take bull seals. They slam those blunt noses bang into them and rise them out the water and then catch them in midair. Playing with your food, you could say. Showing off as well. They do that. So a size of shark, 25-foot great white shark, could bring that down, certainly, the orca. So, yeah, apart from the fact that it may be taking things personally, it's pursuing Quint, Brody, Hooper, but it's having fun with them. They are prey, and they're attacking it, so it's going to go after them. Yeah, I'm putting Jaws in there. Probably top slot. What came next? Oh, Grizzly! William Girdler's Jaws on Land. One of the many Jaws rip-offs. I've discussed grizzly a lot. I love it. Ursus horribilis, a giant grizzly bear. Now, yeah, depending on what publicity artwork you're looking at, he's either 16 foot or he's 18 foot. Either way, even a normal sized grizzly bear, when it stands up on its hind legs, is absolutely, it's primordial, and it is jaw-droppingly terrifying, and it's a carnivore. It can run faster than you, it can climb trees, and get on this, it can swim. So you've got no chance against one of these things. So what you see it do in this movie, where it does pursue people, it swings a helicopter around. Bear in mind, the helicopter's it's just landed, so it just hits the tail of the helicopter and just spins it, so it goes like that. Well, that's not out of the question. A grizzly bear that size, and who's to say that couldn't exist? In the novelisation, if not the movie, they do make reference to the fact that this is probably a prehistoric throwback, so it's bigger than other grizzly bears. It's also probably been a bit of an outcast from its own. Its mother probably didn't like it because it was just too damn big. So you give it a bit of a personal reason. Again, I'm probably going beyond, the very parameters that I set myself for this. But a bear that size could do the things you see that bear do. End of. So grizzly's up there. And that's by Lewis Teague. Lewis Teague also directed the next one. No, hang on a minute. William Gedder directed Grizzly. Lewis Teague directed Alligator. Oh yes. Now I know. This is one of the classics that we all love, and it's also hard to get hold of, to get a proper good copy of that movie now. I thought I had it. Well, I have. I've got it on VHS and on Betamax, but I haven't got a DVD of it, and I'm stunned. Because I know that for a fact, because I was going to review this movie a while ago, and I scanned all the shelves. I could not find a copy of it at all, nor its sequel, Alligator 2: The Mutation, which we don't really want to talk about anyway. But Robert Forster battling this huge alligator that's been flushed down a toilet, and then as ate laboratory animals which are full of a growth hormone which have been flushed as well. So you're kind of getting a logical reason why it's grown to such proportions. But does it act out of character for an alligator living in the sewers? I don't think so. It makes a hunting ground. It comes up and it'll take prey from the streets above. It then gets bigger and more enraged because people are going down after it, and it comes up in the Hudson and is storming a great big river party and that. Like, it's only doing what an alligator would do. It's not flying. It's not spitting flame out of its nostrils. It hasn't got chrome-tipped fangs. It's just an alligator, just a very big one that happens to be living in a city. So, yeah. Now, Lewis Teague also did perhaps one of the best and most realistic with Cujo. Based on a Stephen King novel, Cujo is the story, a very sad story. It's a film I can't watch, as it happens. A giant, well, not giant, they're all big, St. Bernard dog, which chases prey into a bolt hole and gets bitten by a rabies-inflicted bat, and then begins to transform into, well, not another creature, but just a rabies-ridden, totally ferocious beast. And the size of him, the weight of him, he then becomes a huge problem for his own owner and her son, who become trapped in a car in the terrible, I think it's Texas, the Texan heat. And it's just, anyone who tries to come to help them, this Cujo, the dog, is going to take them down. But does Cujo do anything that a giant St. Bernard infected with rabies do? Or wouldn't do? No. He doesn't do anything that's too preposterous. The scenario is very realistic in many, many ways. Under Stephen King's literature, it's a very complex psychological drama. Under Lewis Teague's direction, it's a horror movie, and the good, placid, lovable dog, the devoted dog, becomes an absolute abhorrent monster and a threat to all. And I can't watch it because, well, being a dog lover, as you know, proud husky owner, I just see the tragedy of it, and it just, to see something that you love turn into a monster like that, I don't know, and it's through no fault of its own, and it just to see its eyes go mad, and it does look horribly realistic. So that's going in there. That's nature fighting back. Again, there's no alien meteorite. He hasn't chewed on alien DNA. It's rabies, which exists and does have that effect upon, well, anything that becomes horribly infected with it, and it goes beyond the first few stages. So, Cujo. Alright, let's go a bit further back in time with Hitchcock and the Birds, based on Daphne du Maurier's story about the birds that suddenly rise up in a completely unspoken, unparalleled, unexplained rebellion against mankind. Bodega Bay, Rod Taylor. Oh yeah, what Rod Taylor again? I've mentioned him loads lately, it seems. And the birds swoop, and it is Tippi Hedren. Now, what those birds do those birds do anything that birds don't do? Well, apart from attack en masse, but then again, they do. Birds are predators, they're hunters. So if for some reason they're not using their wings or their beaks in ways that wings and beaks can't be used, when they swoop down and peck eyeballs out, that's what they can do. If they fly into the windshield of a plane, that plane's going to crash, or into the engines and turbines of that plane, it's going to crash. If they fly into car windscreens, it's going to crash. Car might go into a petrol station, boom! Yes, they're going to cause explosions. That's not completely outlandish. They're not doing anything that a flock of birds that are genuinely targeting people on the ground couldn't do. And it is genuinely terrifying and wonderfully filmed as well. Albert Whitlock's fabulous photographic effects and matte shots, absolutely wonderful stuff. Hitchcock's direction, the lack of music, and the complete inexplicable nature of it. Why has it happened? And the way it just ends like a quiet Armageddon, and they walk out and the birds are still all there, but are they going to attack? What's going to happen? It is wonderful. It's a great, great film. Haven't seen it for many years, but it's wonderful. So it's in the list. Well, next up, again, this is no particular order. It's just the way I've jotted it down. We get Stephen Hopkins and The Ghost in the Darkness. I'm playing Jerry Goldsmith's wonderful score for that movie right now. I'll even turn up a little bit. Turn it up just when it's a quiet phase between tracks. This was 1898, building a bridge, a railroad in Savo in Africa, and you've got Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas. Michael Douglas is the big hunter, Remington, and you've got Val Kilmer, who is the British engineer, who's the British military engineer to construct this railway, build this bridge. The problem is there are two man-eating lions in the area which are picking off people with almost devilish cunning, surviving every trap that's set for them, escaping every hunt that's put out for them. No matter what barricades or protection the workers are using, these lions are getting in there. Two male lions working as a team, taking down and eating human beings for pleasure, for fun. Now you think, well, Kilt-Man, lions don't do that. No, they don't. But these two lions did. Why? Because it's a true story. It's genuinely true. The film doesn't even really over-dramatise what happened. It changes events a little bit. But those two lions finally did, bite the bullet. And then now I think they're in the Smithsonian Institute. And you can go and look at those lions. And the thing about the lions of Savo is they have no manes. So they're unusual looking lions. Also, two male lions never ever have worked together as a pair, as a hunting team that live together, hunt together. But they did that, and they killed, well, the jury's out on this. You're talking at least 130, 140, some people estimate far higher than that, victims who were working on this railroad. And the film is genuinely exciting, exhilarating. I know that Michael Douglas, who was producing the film, went in and gave himself at the last minute the role of Remington, the big game hunter, and chopped out like 45 minutes of other footage to make sure that he got more screen time out of his footage. Yeah, but it doesn't affect the film at all. The film is absolutely a vigorous telling with a wonderful score, atmospheric, thrilling, exciting, nasty in places, and a great performance from Val Kilmer as well. So the Ghost in the Darkness, they were the names of the lines. One was called the Ghost and one was called the Darkness, operating as a team. That's probably the best example of nature fighting back, of animals doing what animals obviously can do, because they did it. They definitely did it. So that's there. What's next? Alright, okay. Some people may argue about this one. Russell Mulcahy, who did Highlander, just before that, and all the pop videos he'd done, he did a film called Razorback, set in the Australian outback. And what a razorback is, to many of us, it's a wild boar. It's a pig. It's a big pig, and it's a very nasty, mean motherfucker of a pig. And this pig is attacking people and things around this region. So you're going to get a guy coming in who's lost his girlfriend out there. You've got kangaroo poachers who are there. You've got all sorts of people. You've got a hunter there. You've got lots of people out there who are going to incur the wrath of this bloody big pig, the Razorback. Now, so killings ensue. There's a thrilling finale in its lair. And I'm just trying to think, does it, because I haven't seen it for a while, but it did spring to mind. Yeah, a wild boar. Does a wild boar act like that? Well, this is a bloody big wild boar. Again, it's not flying. It's not shitting napalm on people. It's not doing anything that a wild boar couldn't actually do. And wild boars are very aggressive. They can pursue, hunt, chase down their victims, their prey, and that could be a person. So this one takes out a watchdog in this guy's ranch, and it's chained up to the back. And as it runs off, this big fat bastard is watching. I think he's watching the wrestling on TV or something like that. He's just sitting there with a beer. All of a sudden, the whole house starts shaking, and then the wall, one entire corner of his room, just takes off into the shadows of the night across the desert, and his telly goes with it and then blinks out. And it's because this wild boar's taken the dog that was chained up there and just run off with it. Preposterous, the size of it, the speed of these things, and the strength that they have. I don't know. I don't think you stretch. That's there for a narrative, but it's not something that I don't think that Razorback, if it was that way inclined, couldn't actually feasibly do. I know I'm going out on a bit of a limb there, but what the hell? I ain't telling no porky pies. It's in the film, and I just thought, well, I want to do a different animal each time. So we've now covered pigs. What's next? Now I said before about animals that will conceptualize and put into practice a strategy of revenge. In Orca Killer Whale, directed by, oh god, who was it? Michael Anderson. Again, this is Dino De Laurentiis, and everyone goes, oh, it's a Jaws rip-off. It is and it isn't. It came out in the wake of Jaws, and that big marine animal causing chaos and a personal vendetta as well. But it tells a different story. It tells a very personal, very heart-rending story, because Richard Harris, who's a fisherman, he captures accidentally a pregnant orca killer whale, pulls it aboard. Oh god, what have I done? And then it gives birth. Oh, but of course, mother and child will die. Mother and calf will die. So you throw them over the side. But their mate, as we're watching this, and orcas can come out the water and like sharks and observe what's happening above the surface. And orcas, whales, mate for life. So they're part of a pod, a big, huge family, you could call it, a tribe. But he will never have another mate now after that. Oh my god. Yeah, I've got Ennio Morricone's awesomely beautiful score for that movie, and I'm not going to play it because I'll start tearing up gut style. But then that whale targets Richard Harris's fishermen. It knows where he's going, it follows them back, and it leaves the carcass of its mate on the beach as a sign, you did this. Because they can't make how it got there. Well, only one way it could have got there. Its mates followed you and put it there. And then, because he won't come out to sea, it then... Well, okay, maybe I've taught myself into a bit of a trap here, because it orchestrates a strategy whereby it just lays waste to the town, the port. a lot of it's built over the water. It takes the struts out. It destroys all the fishing fleet that's there, that's anchored up there. But a whale could do that. A whale could do it. It's not doing anything that it physically couldn't actually achieve. Bo Derek gets her legs snipped off when it breaks the struts, and their house tilts like that, and she slides down. A bit like Quint, yeah, on the Orca, yeah. So, and then obviously, because of that now it's Richard Harris is apologetic. He even apologises to the whale. He goes out on the jetty alone. He says, look, I didn't mean to do that. I really didn't. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And it sounds ridiculous, but I actually do like that scene as well. And but now because it's killed, well, it's took the leg off Bo Derek, and it's ostracised him from the township, who now hate him. They want him gone. This is your problem. You brought this to our doorstep. So he then goes out to sea with a reluctant crew, and the Orca leads them out into the Arctic wastes, and it will finally confront him on an ice floe. And again, we've got slidey stuff going on. It tilts up the ice floe, and he begins to slide down. But he won't be chomped. He'll be swiped on the ice floe. He'll be hurled into an ice cliff wall, and that's it. End of. And then the Orca goes back to its pod and swims with them for the rest of his life. He wins. He's happy. Well, he's not happy, but he's done the job he set out to do. I think it's a wonderful film. I really do. It's a very emotional film, and that's how it gets around being so much more than just a rip-off of Jaws. It tells a similar story, but from a very different perspective, from the animals' perspective as well as the humans. And you're not really endeared towards the human, although you do warm to him because he is sincerely apologetic for what he's done, but he's now in a position where he's got to fight back. So it's one of them, but it's a wonderful film. I love it. And yeah, it's nature fighting back, literally fighting back. Okay, now we're going to go back a little bit further into the days of black and white creature features, but The Incredible Shrinking Man from Jack Arnold. Now, this is where a human... Now, this is where the stupid science and supernatural stuff comes in. A strange cloud he sails through on a fishing boat makes him begin to shrink, which is all fun and games at first. Ha, I'm a notable celebrity because I'm shrinking. But pretty soon, the house he lives in, home, becomes an absolute treacherous wilderness. His own cat is going to go for him because he's the size of, a mouse. It can pursue him. So you've got a cat in this which pursues him. He manages to get away, but of course he ends up down in the cellar. You guys know what I'm coming to here. And the film is not about the spider that's down there, which is not a giant spider. It is just a house spider. But I've had cellars in the past, and we have a huge house here, and the spiders we get here can be phenomenal in size. So even just, it's just a house spider. Yeah, it can still be bloody big. And especially when you're only that big yourself. So the huge final third of this movie, the final act really, is him versus what, as you're watching, is a giant spider. But it's not a giant spider, it's just a normal spider, and it just sees him as prey. But because he fights back, unlike a fly, he uses weapons, uses tools, he can run and hide. The spider's all the more going to go after him. It's agitated. Is it doing anything a spider wouldn't do? No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, I did think about putting the classic creature feature, big mutated monster creature feature, Tarantula, in there, also by Jack Arnold, but because that's a giant tarantula which, through no fault of its own, is grown because of mutation. Would we allow that? Well, as it happens, no, because when you see it on its rampage, colossal size across the Arizona deserts, it's not doing what a tarantula does. They don't do that. They don't act like that. They just don't. They don't go on rampages. They don't go and attack towns. It just wouldn't do that. It would go and find a nest and live in it. No, but it had to find a bloody big nest, admittedly, but that's what it would do. So that's why The Incredible Shrinking Man is in here, for its spider more than Tarantula is. And what's next? I've covered this film a lot as well. Gordon Douglas is great, one of the best 50s creature features, if not the best creature feature in the 50s. It is them, exclamation mark, giant ants. Yes, it's atomic radiation has made these grow, but we know that atomic radiation can cause mutations and stuff, so I am stretching it. But the reason why that film is in there, and importantly so, is because the ants don't do anything that ants don't do. Yes, given the time the film was made and the limited effects that they could do, so giant, slow-moving, puppetized, animatronic puppets of ants, they're not exactly the most realistic looking things, but they're still bloody good. But the film is really, really at pains to show you how ant society lives. Nature fighting back. A husky has just roared in here. Nature fights back. Nature is shown how ants can be aggressive, how they live, how they form water traps, how their nests exist, how the queen ants exist, how they fly out of the nest to go and make a new nest with drones and soldier ants, as an escort, which will soon die off. It shows you all of this, how ants genuinely exist and live, albeit these are giantized, and they find. But the storm drains of LA, well, as they say in the film, the scientists say in the film, that would be very enticing to them. They miles and miles of tunnels and network underground. That's what they don't. If they didn't already exist, they created themselves. So there it was, tailor-made for them. And ants are aggressive, ants are carnivorous, ants do wage war en masse. So I'm afraid them is very justified. It gets over the fact that they're mutated ants and the whole science fiction element there. I know, I'm bending the rules anyway, but what the hell. It gets over that because it pays it back with all the realism of ant society and that kind of civilization and the way that they exist, their lifestyles, what they feed on, how they move about during the day, how they mainly move about during the night. So, it gets around it and it wins. It wins out. That was 10. Jaws, Grizzly, Alligator, Cujo, The Birds, Ghost in Darkness, it's one film, Razorback, Orca, Incredible Shrinking Man, them. Now, off the back of that, I thought of a few films where I would love to include these, but they really do kind of go beyond. Like, I wanted to include Wolfen, which is about super intelligent wolves living in the Bronx, the derelict buildings of the Bronx, and preying on the detritus of mankind, the sick, the homeless, the druggies, the down and outs, but then getting hunted down by LA detectives. But although in the film, unlike the book, where they have almost human-like werewolf-style faces, very similar to that, in fact, and the book shows you how they think, how they communicate. Yeah, and of course, wolves do communicate with each other. They do live in packs. They do hunt together. They do have a hierarchy. The book is at pains to show that. The film depicts them as just wolves. They are real-life wolves in all those scenes, running about the city and doing their set-piece attacks. They are real-life wolves, and beautiful they are too. But they do magically arrive at the top of a huge penthouse, the penthouse suite top of a high-rise, and there is a spiritual connection they have with the Native Americans. So I think there is, if you want it to be there, and I do, I embrace the spiritual side of that story as well. So for me, you've broken beyond the natural way that wolves would, live, fight, hunt, and exist. But alongside that, you've got the Grey. Joe Carnahan's the Grey. Liam Neeson, yes, punching the wolf. Well, why didn't I include that? I'm not entirely sure why, because they're stuck out in Alaska in the frozen wastes. A plane crashed, the wolves are picking them off one by one. So in the end, there's only Liam Neeson left, and he ends up fighting against the alpha male from the pack, because he's proved to be the alpha male of the ragtag bunch of survivors from the plane crash. Do the wolves do anything that wolves couldn't do? In the Grey? I don't know, I don't know. I'm not sure why I've not put that in there. Maybe I should. Maybe we'll create an 11th slot. What I do know is that the Grey is one of my favourite horror, thriller, action, outdoor adventure movies, certainly of recent years, and I haven't covered it, so I need to, because I do love the film. And yeah, that should have made the list. I don't think they do anything that wolves couldn't do. They hunt, they use cunning, stealth, they attack en masse, they also they taunt, they do taunt their victims as well, I suppose, but I don't know. It's the 11th one on the list. Piranha. Well, again, these are specially bred military piranhas, aren't they? And piranhas apparently don't act like that. They will think, oh, they strip you to the bone. They don't really do that. So, although that's the myth behind them, and they are very deadly, of course, but they don't really act the way they do in the movie, so I didn't include that, as great as the film is. And obviously there's no werewolves, there's nothing supernatural here. So, what else was there? Night of the Lupus.
Everybody, please evacuate the drive-in. There is a horde of massive, outsized, aggressive killer rabbits on the way.
Yeah, because that's what they are. Mutated rabbits on the rampage. A friggin' army of bunnies. Flesh-eating bunnies. No. Folks, I said this would be a quick one. It's been half an hour, but that's it. There's my little list of, top of my head, nature fighting back, animals, animal horror movies, but animals acting mainly in character, not like some kind of supernatural science fiction side. There's been a few little exceptions there, I'll grant you that. But anyway, post up what your favourites are, or what you think of when you think of nature fighting back against man in the movies. And I am going to see you all later. So long as the rampant mice in here don't have other ideas.